There's a curious phenomenon happening in kitchens across suburbia. No, it's not what you're thinking. The plumber isn't involved. Neither is the pizza delivery guy. This is something far more intimate, far more addictive. While chopping vegetables for dinner, Sarah from Ohio is listening to a detailed breakdown of how Jeffrey Dahmer dismembered his victims. While folding the children's laundry, Emma from Texas is absorbing the finer points of Ted Bundy's manipulation techniques. While meal prepping for the week, Claire from California is learning about the specific type of rope used in the Golden State Killer's attacks. Her phone keeps buzzing. School pickup started 20 minutes ago. But Claire's deep in an Amazon rabbit hole. Right, okay, where was I? Shopping cart. Rope, check. Zip ties, got it. 50 Shades of Hog Tying. Oh, yes, ordered. The kids can figure out their own way home. Mom's got priorities. And they're all relaxed. Calm, even. As if the methodical description of brutal murders has become the audio equivalent of a warm bath. Welcome to the crazy world of true crime, where murder isn't just entertainment, it's self-care. Where serial killers have become bedtime stories for grown women. Where the most horrific acts in human history are now comfort food for the soul. Nancy from suburban Denver knows more about Jeffrey Dahmer's refrigerator habits than her own teenagers' whereabouts. Linda from Phoenix can recite the timeline of Jack the Ripper's murders, but struggles to remember her wedding anniversary. And somewhere in Minnesota, a book club has replaced Jane Austen with forensic pathology reports. Turns out the only thing more suffocating than period drama fashion is actual suffocation. This isn't morbid curiosity anymore. It's become a lifestyle, an identity, a strange form of meditation where the mantra is murdered and dismembered. We used to soothe ourselves with stories about random acts of kindness. Chicken soup for the soul, they called it. Now we prefer random acts of violence. Chicken soup with a side of dismemberment. What changed? Well, everything. But mostly, the marketing got better. Before we condemn the true crime industrial complex, we should at least acknowledge one thing. It works. Not in the sense that it solves crimes or brings justice to families, but in the sense that it sells. It sells by the truckload. Ad revenue, sponsorships, merch, premium subscriptions. At one point, more Americans could name Jeffrey Dahmer's victims than their own state representatives. Which makes sense, really. Politicians give you empty promises. Serial killers give you full confessions. So what makes true crime so irresistible to suburban America? The short answer is that it doesn't offer you entertainment. It flatters you into believing you're an investigator. You don't need a badge, training, forensic expertise, or even basic common sense. You just have to listen, carefully, obsessively, and preferably while doing household chores. This isn't education. This is ego massage, perfectly packaged for people who've watched too much CSI. You know, the show where they'd find a fingerprint, explain what a fingerprint is, then explain why fingerprints matter, then explain how they caught the guy with the fingerprint, just in case. The content is smartly constructed, not with evidence, but with intimacy. Every episode seems to whisper secrets directly into your ear. The victim's last moments, the killer's twisted psychology, the police's crucial mistakes. It's seductive because it doesn't ask you to qualify for anything. It asks you to imagine you're already qualified, to feel like a detective without the academy, already insightful, already capable of solving what professionals couldn't. And if you disagree with the investigation, well, clearly the cops just aren't thinking like you. Try again, but this time with more speculation and fewer facts. The real genius of true crime isn't in its storytelling. It's in its immunity to accountability. If you solve it, you're brilliant. If you don't, the evidence is obviously tampered with. Either way, the fault lies with everyone except the amateur detective on the couch. It's investigation with a superiority complex, only without the actual investigating bit. And it doesn't hurt that it feels important. Dramatic music, serious narrators, victim photos framed like evidence, a solemn tone suggesting you're performing a public service by consuming someone else's tragedy. It's more than entertainment. It's a performance of caring. A murder mystery where you're both the detective and the audience, directed by people who've never solved anything but ad placement algorithms. And, let's be honest, it feels good to believe that you can see what professionals missed, that your instincts matter, that justice is not only within reach, but literally calling your name through your headphones. It's a fantasy, but not just any fantasy, a bespoke one, tailored for a culture raised on CSI reruns, Netflix binges, and "you're so smart" validation. It's seduction by investigation. And it works. Not because it's true, but because it's flattering. And that, in the end, may be true crime's most dangerous hook of all. There's a special kind of torture happening in living rooms across America. No, it's not tax season. It's not in-laws visiting for the holidays. It's something far more sinister. It's when you've shipped the kids to grandma's house, told your bewildered husband, "The bar sounds like a great idea tonight," and settled in for some quality me time, only to find yourself 40 minutes into the most gripping murder confession you've ever heard, with your bestie and their ring light explaining basic concepts like they're delivering the most tremendous, the most beautiful, the most perfect legal analysis America has ever seen. Welcome to the world of law nerds, where every courtroom drama comes with a built-in intermission. Every piece of evidence gets a PowerPoint presentation. And every obvious legal concept requires a 17-minute explanation, complete with chat interaction and donation alerts. You came for justice. You're getting a lecture. You wanted to hear the confession. You're getting a dissertation on the constitutional right to remain silent, whilst often wishing they'd practice it themselves. Meet your host, a former lawyer who's traded their briefcase for a ring light. They'll analyze every piece of evidence with the authority of their legal background. Oh, and don't ask why they're providing you this free service on YouTube when they could be representing the rich and famous. It's very complicated legal stuff you wouldn't understand. What's important is that you understand the crucial legal nuances that the actual investigators clearly missed. Now, chat, what you're seeing here is what we call evidence. Let me break down why this matters in a court of law. Meanwhile, the actual testimony, the thing you came to hear, plays in a tiny box in the corner like a picture-in-picture sports score. The murder victim gets less screen time than the sponsor message. But don't worry. Your law nerd is here to guide you through every single obvious detail with the confidence of someone who's never actually solved a case, but has definitely optimized their YouTube analytics. But here's where it gets truly diabolical. The hosts have discovered something beautiful. Sound effects. Not just any sound effects. The goat's scream. Pavlovian conditioning disguised as entertainment. Every time something important happens, which is basically every 30 seconds, the goats scream. Your attention is demanded. Your focus is commanded. Miss the goats scream. Miss the crucial moment. It's like being trained by a very loud, very annoying legal professor who's discovered the power of audio assault. Did you catch that objection? Notice how the defendant's lawyer just shuffled his papers? The judge just blinked. This could be significant. And somehow, inexplicably, it works. Viewers become addicted to the audio assault. They start anticipating the goat scream, craving it even. Because without the goat scream, how would they know when something matters? How would they know when to pay attention in a trial they're not qualified to understand? The sound becomes their legal training wheels, their courtroom comfort blanket, their very loud, very obnoxious security blanket. Meanwhile, in the live chat, a different kind of madness unfolds. Thousands of people pretending to be legal experts. Objection, hearsay, types someone who learned that word from a movie. Code red, you can't handle the truth, chimes in another viewer, mixing up their courtroom dramas with stunning confidence. The prosecution is falling apart, declares another viewer whose legal education consists entirely of Law and Order reruns. Everyone's a lawyer. Everyone's an expert. Everyone knows exactly what should happen next. Except, of course, for the actual lawyers in the actual courtroom who spent actual years studying actual law. But what do they know? They don't even have a goat scream. And here's the most insidious part. The illusion of community. We're all in this together, the host reminds you. We're seeking justice together. We're watching history unfold together. Together. Always together. But just on my channel, of course. Not those other channels. Just this one. Even though you're alone on your couch, eating cereal at 2 a.m., watching strangers argue about evidence you don't understand. But it feels like community. It feels like purpose. It feels like you're part of something bigger than yourself. Something important. Something that matters. When really, you're just part of something profitable. Because every hour you spend glued to the screen is an hour of ad revenue. Every goat scream that makes you jump is a goat scream that keeps you engaged. Every "we're in this together" is a reminder to keep watching, keep subscribing, keep donating. The trial will end eventually. The verdict will be reached. Justice may or may not be served. But the addiction? That's forever. Because there's always another trial. Always another case. Always another tragedy to turn into entertainment. And somewhere, a new host is setting up their ring light, testing their goat scream, and preparing to invite you to watch the next disaster with them. Come on, they'll say, with that same intimate, friendly tone. Watch with me. And you will. Because by now, you can't imagine watching alone. There's something magical about the phrase, "watch with me," unless you're the husband who'd rather be dancing in a tutu at a Taylor Swift concert with his drinking buddies than spend another evening with his own personal Judge Judy. It sounds so intimate, so friendly, like your best friend inviting you over for wine and gossip, except the gossip involves someone's life being destroyed in real time. And the wine is optional, but the sleep deprivation, well, that is mandatory. Welcome to the latest evolution in true crime entertainment, where legal proceedings have become appointment television, where court cases are treated like the Super Bowl, complete with commentary, halftime analysis, and people calling in sick to work. Meet Sarah from Ohio again. Remember her? She used to chop vegetables while listening to podcasts about Jeffrey Dahmer. Quaint times. Now she's pulling all-nighters, watching live trial coverage, fueled by nothing but coffee and the desperate need to see justice served in real time. Her family has learned not to interrupt during court hours. The kids know that if mom's laptop is open and there's a gavel on the screen, they're basically orphans until the session ends. Shh! They're about to cross-examine the witness. Make your younger brother his dinner. But Mom, I'm only 8. Because apparently, Sarah's presence is crucial to the legal process. Her commentary from the couch might be the difference between conviction and acquittal. She's not just watching anymore. She's participating. She's part of the team. And if she misses a day, well, that's letting everyone down, isn't it? There's a moment that happens to every true crime enthusiast, usually around 2 a.m., when they're 47 minutes into someone's brutal murder. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a thought creeps in. This is someone's actual life. This actually happened. There's a real family somewhere who lived through this nightmare. It's an uncomfortable thought, the kind that might ruin a perfectly good evening of recreational murder consumption. But don't worry. The human mind is remarkably adaptable. Within seconds, that uncomfortable truth gets filed away under things we don't think about right now, and the mental gymnastics begin. Welcome to the most impressive psychological performance you'll ever witness, where ordinary people transform into Olympic-level athletes of self-justification, where consuming someone else's tragedy becomes a noble pursuit, where watching murder for entertainment becomes raising awareness. The routines are spectacular. Take the classic, "I'm actually helping" dismount. By watching this, I'm keeping the victim's memory alive. I'm making sure their story is heard. The more people who know about this case, the better chance we have of solving it. Never mind that the case was solved 15 years ago. Never mind that the victim's family has specifically asked for privacy. Never mind that your awareness consists entirely of eating snacks while someone describes how their loved one died. You're helping. You're a hero, really. A very comfortable hero with excellent Wi-Fi and a bag of chips. Then there's the educational value vault. I'm learning about criminal psychology. This helps me understand how the legal system works. Knowledge is power, and I'm empowering myself. Except the knowledge being gained is how many times someone was stabbed, what the killer wore, how long it took the victim to die. This isn't education. It's voyeurism with a study guide, but it feels better to call it learning. It transforms passive consumption into active improvement. You're not watching someone's worst day. You're attending university, a very dark, very specific university where the only degree offered is in other people's suffering. But calling it education makes it feel acceptable, necessary even. And the watching continues. But perhaps the most spectacular routine of all is the prey empathizing with the hunter performance. Here's the psychological puzzle that would baffle any psychology student. Take a demographic that spends their entire lives being cautious about male violence. Women who check their back seats before getting in the car. Women who carry keys between their fingers walking to their front door. Women who text friends when they get home safe. Women who live with a constant, low-level awareness that they could become a victim. Now watch many of them voluntarily consume hours upon hours of content about the very thing they're trying to avoid. Not just consume it. Become obsessed with it. Not just obsessed with it. A significant percentage fall in love with it. Literally. Love letters to convicted killers are overwhelmingly written by women. Many of the same women who understand better than anyone what these men are capable of. Women who spent their lives developing strategies to avoid becoming their victims. And yet, somehow, through a magnificent display of mental gymnastics, they've convinced themselves that this particular killer is different. He's misunderstood. He's changed. He wouldn't hurt them. They can see the real him. The same real him that tortured and murdered someone's daughter. But that's different. That victim didn't understand him like they do. That victim didn't see his potential. That victim didn't love him properly. It's a psychological performance, so breathtaking in its contradiction, that it deserves its own category. The prey not only empathizing with the hunter, but actively pursuing the hunter, seeking out the hunter, writing love letters to the hunter, all while maintaining their vigilance against hunters in their daily lives. The cognitive dissonance required is Olympic level, and somehow it feels completely normal to the people performing it. And then there's the crowd favorite, the "I'm different from other viewers" routine. This one's performed with remarkable consistency across the entire true crime audience. I'm not like those other people who just watch for entertainment. I actually care about justice. I'm more thoughtful about this content. I'm not obsessed like some people, says the person who just spent 6 hours watching murder trials while their dinner went cold. This routine requires impressive flexibility. The ability to simultaneously be part of something while remaining above it. To consume the exact same content as millions of others while maintaining intellectual superiority. Those other viewers are just voyeurs. I'm conducting research. They're desensitized to violence. I'm developing empathy. They treat it like entertainment. I treat it like education. The difference, of course, is entirely imaginary. Everyone's clicking the same videos. Everyone's binge-watching the same trials. Everyone's commenting in the same chat rooms. But somehow, through sheer force of self-perception, each viewer has convinced themselves they're the exception. They're the thoughtful one, the empathetic one, the one who's really here for the right reasons. It's a beautiful performance, really. The mental agility required to be simultaneously part of the crowd while standing apart from it, to participate fully while maintaining moral distance, to consume with the exact same appetite while claiming superior motivation. And the truly remarkable thing? They all perform this routine at exactly the same time. Millions of people, all convinced they're the only one taking this seriously. All convinced they're different. All convinced they're better. All doing exactly the same thing. Now that we've explored the impressive mental gymnastics required to justify this whole enterprise, it's time to ask the obvious question. Who's actually benefiting from all this psychological flexibility? Spoiler alert. It's not the victims. It's not justice. It's not even the viewers, despite what they tell themselves at 3 a.m. No, the real beneficiaries are much more practical, much more grounded, much more interested in monthly recurring revenue than monthly recurring nightmares. Welcome to the true crime industrial complex, where tragedy is the raw material and your attention is the finished product, where someone's worst day becomes someone else's best quarter, where seeking justice and seeking subscribers have become mysteriously interchangeable phrases. Meet your friendly neighborhood law nerd again. Remember them? Former lawyer turned YouTube personality? They'll analyze every piece of evidence with the authority of their legal background. Listen to them dissect this case based on their years of legal experience. Trust their expert analysis of constitutional law and criminal procedure. And please, whatever you do, don't ask why someone with such impressive legal credentials is monetizing murder mysteries instead of, lawyering. That's beside the point. The point is ad revenue. I mean, justice. Always justice. But wait, there's more. Because this isn't just about one person monetizing tragedy. It's an entire ecosystem. A beautiful, self-sustaining economy built on other people's worst days. The law nerd gets their ad revenue. But the viewers? They get something even better. They get to open their wallets. For justice, of course. There's always a GoFundMe. Always. Didn't like the verdict? There's a GoFundMe for the appeal. Think the defendant was wrongly convicted? There's a GoFundMe for their legal fees. Believe the victim's family deserves more? There's a GoFundMe for that too. Sometimes there are competing GoFundMes, one for each side, because nothing says seeking justice like a crowdfunding arms race. And the viewers, fresh from their mental gymnastics Olympics training, have convinced themselves that throwing money at strangers on the internet is the same thing as fighting injustice. I donated $50 to his legal defense fund. I'm making a difference. I'm part of the solution. You're part of something, all right. But it's not justice. It's a subscription service for moral superiority, pay-per-view righteousness. justice as a service. And then there's the sponsorship magic. Nothing quite captures the essence of modern true crime, like a brutal murder confession being interrupted by an advertisement. We'll be right back with the defendant's description of how he disposed of the body. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Eat Z Bugs. Sustainable protein for sustainable viewing. Use code MURDER20 for 20% off your first Cricket Flour subscription. The seamless transition from someone's final moments to insect-based nutrition is truly something to behold. It's monetization poetry. The victim's family gets closure. The defendant gets justice. And you get 15% off mealworms. Everyone wins, especially the creators who've discovered that human tragedy pairs beautifully with sustainable advertising revenue. But why stop at sponsorships? There's an entire merchandise ecosystem waiting to be explored. Coffee mugs for your soya latte, because the planet, you know. T-shirts that turn you into a walking conversation starter, or provide other people enough of a reason to run away like hell. Because nothing says, I care about victims, like wearing their killer's face on your hoodie. But the real innovation isn't in one-time purchases. It's in the subscription economy. Why sell someone a t-shirt once when you can charge them monthly for the privilege of premium murder content? Welcome to the world of Patreon tiers. For just $5 a month, you get early access to our murder breakdowns. For $10, you get bonus episodes featuring exclusive victim interviews. For $25, you get behind-the-scenes content and direct access to our private Discord, where we discuss cases that are too sensitive for the main channel. Too sensitive. Because apparently, there's a sensitivity scale for monetizing tragedy. Some murders are suitable for general audiences. Others require a monthly subscription. It's like a streaming service, but for human suffering. Netflix for the morbidly curious. And the subscribers? They've convinced themselves this is research funding, academic sponsorship, supporting important journalism. I'm investing in justice. No. You're investing in someone's ability to quit their day job and analyze murders full-time. You're not funding justice. You're funding lifestyle choices. The creator gets to work from home. You get to feel important. The victim's family gets to watch strangers profit from their tragedy. But hey, at least the content is ad-free. The verdict is in. Guilty on all counts. The gavel falls. The defendant is led away. The victim's family finally has closure. And somewhere in Ohio, Sarah is having a panic attack. Not because justice wasn't served. Justice was served perfectly. The panic is much more immediate, much more personal. What is she supposed to watch now? For 6 months, this trial has been her companion, her routine, her purpose. Every morning, coffee and court proceedings. Every evening, analysis and chat room discussions. Every weekend, deep dives into evidence and expert commentary. Her entire schedule revolved around someone else's legal proceedings. And now, it's over. The withdrawal is immediate, brutal, like losing a best friend who never actually knew you existed. She refreshes the Law Nerds channel obsessively. Maybe there's bonus content. Maybe there's an appeal. Maybe there's post-trial analysis that can stretch this out for another week. But deep down, she knows the truth. The show is over. The entertainment value has been extracted. Time to find the next tragedy. The next family torn apart. The next defendant to analyze. The next victim to turn into content. And the law nerd knows it too. They can see the analytics in real time. The numbers that skyrocketed during opening statements. The subscriber count that exploded during cross-examination. The super chat donations that poured in during closing arguments. All of it evaporating like morning mist. The trial is over, and so is the gold mine. Desperation sets in on both sides of the screen. Sarah refreshes obsessively, hoping for new content. The law nerd uploads frantically, trying to squeeze every last drop from this particular tragedy. Post-trial analysis. What the verdict really means. 5 things the jury got wrong. Exclusive interview with someone who once walked past the courthouse. They're both in denial. Both pretending this can continue. Both knowing it can't. The law nerd watches their view counts plummet with each desperate upload. Sarah watches each new video, knowing it's just filler. Knowing they're both just going through the motions. The honeymoon is over. The intense, consuming relationship they shared through someone else's trauma has run its course. And now, they both face the same terrifying question. What comes next? Sarah could go outside, but the sunshine hurts her eyes. She could call friends, but what would they talk about besides murder? She could engage with her family, but they don't understand reasonable doubt like her true crime community does. The law nerd could return to practicing law, but there are reasons so complicated we wouldn't understand. Remember? It's all very complex legal stuff. Nothing we'd need to worry about. They're both addicts in withdrawal, both hoping the next big case comes soon, both praying it'll be as captivating as the last one, both knowing that even if it is, this cycle will just repeat. The temporary high, the inevitable crash, the desperate search for the next fix. And this is happening everywhere. Millions of Sarahs, all refreshing the same channels. Millions of law nerds, all chasing the same analytics. All part of a machine that turns human suffering into scroll time. We've created something remarkable. A society that can watch someone's worst day and call it self-care. A culture that treats murder like a hobby. A generation that knows more about serial killers than their own neighbors. We've normalized the abnormal so completely that we don't even notice anymore. Children grow up thinking this is entertainment. Teenagers learn about justice from YouTube personalities. Adults schedule their lives around strangers' legal proceedings. And somewhere, a real family is trying to grieve in private while the internet dissects their loved one's final moments for content. But we don't think about that. We can't think about that. Because if we did, we'd have to acknowledge what we've become. A society that's more comfortable with fictional empathy than real connection. More invested in distant tragedies than immediate community. More familiar with murder techniques than our own children's hopes and dreams. We've turned compassion into consumption. Justice into entertainment. Human suffering into human comfort. And somehow, we've convinced ourselves this is normal, that this is healthy, that this is helping. But here's the thing about awareness. Once you see the machine, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the manipulation, you can't unknow it. Once you recognize the pattern, you have a choice. You can keep feeding the machine. Keep consuming tragedy as comfort food. Keep turning someone else's worst day into your own entertainment. Or you can step away. Turn off the notifications. Close the laptop. Go outside, even if the sunshine hurts your eyes. Talk to your family, even if they don't understand reasonable doubt. Live your actual life, instead of consuming someone else's death. The choice, as they say, is yours. But now, you know what you're choosing. And that, perhaps, makes all the difference.